my name is Emily Budgen. I am the editorial assistant at International Airport Review. I am here at the ACI Europe Annual Congress in Istanbul with Armando Brunini, who is the ACI Europe president as well as the CEO of SEA Aeroporto di Milano. So Armando, you've just been on a panel discussion, an interview about the political playbook. How do you think that panel went?
I think it was quite a lively panel. We were discussing with the Commission, with DG Move. I think we were agreeing on various points, and on some, of course, the alignment was not 100%, but I think that's good, it's healthy. Hopefully it was a lively discussion.
It definitely was, and I think there obviously was some consensus, but at the same time there was also this idea of like agreeing disagreeably. One topic that did provoke more of a debate was Enrico Letta's recent report on the single market. You said that you somehow felt that aviation was left out. Can you elaborate on that?
I'm pretty convinced of that. I mean, we actually had the opportunity to have lunch with Enrico Letta together with Olivier Jankovic, our DG, just a few weeks ago. He was very courteous and he was available. It was a very pleasant lunch. So we told him that we absolutely support the key message of his report, which is making the European market deeper and wider. We support the vision, but we are disappointed because he barely ignored aviation. And then there's also a strong statement saying that ideally all European capitals should be connected together through high-speed train, and that ultimately intra-European travel should be 100% on a high-speed network. I mean, that's the way we understood it. And we told him very clearly that we disagree. We think it's just not feasible. It's not that we're against high-speed train. We're actually fans of high-speed train. I personally use it often. It's been a real contributor in Italy to changing transport. But it's basically not feasible and not sustainable to believe that all intra-European traffic will be on rail, both because of timing of the service. I mean, I cannot imagine somebody jumping on a high-speed train in Rome and arriving in Paris in a decent time. Because of the cost of such an investment, we've estimated that 300 billion euros would be needed. And also because of its impact on environment, because there's the bias that the train does not impact on environment. That's true for the train for the train moving, but it's not true if you look at the whole life cycle, which impacts more heavily because of course a lot of the country has to be destroyed to create the rails, and also on noise. So people in Europe are impacted 5 times more by rail noise than by air noise. This might not be thought of often, but it's a reality. So basically we are pro-rail, we're very pro-intermodality, so we absolutely agree that all the main airports need to have a link with high-speed train or with the local trains or even with metro when it's possible. So that's really key. And so we think that we need to complement both. We cannot work without a very efficient high-speed network, and we cannot work with an efficient network of airports and airlines.
So integrating aviation into the TEN-T network and actually viewing it as a whole transport network instead of separating it off.
Exactly. It needs to be a blend, a clever blend, and where, of course, shorter accessibility has to be through rail, and then the longer the routes are, or the more complicated they are for geographic reasons, then there's no option but the plane. And if you're thinking only environment, because I think what's driving this is environment, so there could be something wrong, because by the time it takes to build to triple the current rail network, high-speed network, means 2050. By that time we'll be decarbonized. So I mean, it's not an issue. So we have to be smart and have to complement. And yes, we are in favor of expanding the rail network, but not to the dimensions that's in the report.
Yes, and sustainability has already come up in the conference. It did dominate the industry report delivered by your colleague, Olivier. Do you think that 2050 is a realistic target for the aviation market for net zero?
We need to. It's a tough target. It's not easy, but it's we can't let go now. We need to be resilient in our commitment. And even though the political scenario seems slightly changed and there could be less pressure from politicians to move forward, we want to be on track. We think that science demonstrates that there's an issue with the climate, and we want to do our part. So I think we should actually aim at 2050. I think it is achievable, difficult but achievable, and it's achievable if everybody cooperates, if the industry works hard and is material on its engagement, and also if policymakers do their part and support with accompanying measures, with the right legislation, but also the right accompanying measures and the right incentives. So we've seen some stick with Fit for 55. It's a clever stick, but it's a stick. We think that now we need some carrots. We need some accompanying measures to help us make it effective.
I definitely think that analogy is very effective. And one thing that can be said about this conference so far is there does seem to be a consensus that sustainability is going to be, the top priorities for this industry. Do you think it's the most exciting innovation opportunity? Do you think it should inspire engineers and those who work in the industry? Absolutely,
I really think so. It is happening, and we must be proud of our purpose. Our purpose is to connect, but we should be also cognizant of the fact that to continue to do what we're doing, to connect and to enable flights, we need to be sustainable. It's our license to operate. So the two things come together: sustainability and connectivity. It's not one at the expense of the other. We need to bring forward both of them together. And
one thing that has been brought up in this conference is the idea that the airport ecosystem might change because of this, the idea of endoports.
Absolutely.
I know they're doing this kind of work in Pittsburgh with sustainable aviation fuels.
It is actually happening. I mean, in many airports today, if you go, you will see, big solar farms. And it is happening. It might not happen everywhere. Maybe it does not make sense everywhere. It depends on specific situations. But like we've becoming more and more transport hubs, not just airline hubs, but transport hubs. We might become energy hubs as well, or partially energy hubs. So of course it'll be a hybrid. It won't be white or black, but we will see more and more. Energy is becoming more and more important. Before, we know energy was just a voice, was a utility, was a voice in our financial statement. Today we need to be experts of energy as well. It impacts a lot on our costs, but it's so relevant for our decarbonization agenda, and it's so relevant for the future of fueling with the new energy, the aircrafts, the green aircrafts that we will have, the new energy aircrafts that we will have in the future. So that will mean that we will need to redesign, reconfigure some of the infrastructure, and we will have to redesign supply chains. So because we will need the grid, we will need fast charging electricity at the airport, and we will need hydrogen. And so of course, yes, it will have an impact. It will be over time, but we need to plan for it now.
No, fantastic. And I think, particularly in Milan airports, where you were CEO, there are already some digital innovations that have changed the passenger experience. So people were noticing these already, for instance, by biometrics and lag. Can you talk about this in relation to passenger experience?
We are very proud of that, but we're also very frustrated because so we introduced the new security equipment in 2020, late 2020. That was when COVID was at full throttle. So it took some courage. And Linate was one of the very first airports, if not the first airport, to be fully compliant with the new technology. And then we extended that to Malpensa in 2022. And our passengers just love it. So we speak all the time, passenger experience and seamless travel. So now we're walking the talk, and passengers really like it. And so with this new holdback from the Commission, we're really frustrated because we actually made that investment, a relevant investment, there was a Euro stamp. We did not improvise. We did that because we thought it was compliant, and now it's pulled back, hopefully just for a short period of time. It's complicated to explain it to passengers. They're used to a certain level of service where they don't need to take liquids out of their bags, and suddenly they need to take them out of their bags. It's difficult. to move back. It's always nice to improve, it's difficult to, and it's costing us more, and so it's frustrating. But then now we're seeing another risk, because biometrics is the other, how long is it now that we've been speaking biometrics in this industry? Years and years. And again, in Linate, we launched biometrics 1 month ago. So people that enroll with certain airlines can just use a face when they pass through security and when they board. And it costs a lot of money. We did a lot of testing. We designed it in compliance with Italian legislation on data protection. And then the European Data Protection Board, just a few weeks ago, came out with a substantially negative position on utilizing biometrics at airports, which, burns years and years of investments of the industry and of some of our key suppliers. And so it's frustrating, because we are, stakeholders ask us to improve, to innovate, to digitalize, and to make a better experience for our passengers. And when we do it, they push us back. So I must say that today frustration is higher than being proud of what we did in the last months and years.
No, thank you, Armando. And I just want to conclude with a slightly different question. For those who are looking to work in the airport industry or the aviation sector, do you have a piece of advice?
I think you should move into this sector mainly because you love it. Fortunately, there are a lot of people and youngsters that love our industry, are attracted by our industry. Those are the best colleagues. Those are the ones that will stay. Those are the ones that will thrive in our environment. The other I think point is that you have to be a person of service, because actually we impact on the livelihoods as airports, as airlines, as aviation people. We impact on the livelihoods of people, of communities. So I think that's something nice, but you have to be that type of person. You have to be a person that seeks not power, but seeks service.
No, perfect. Thank you so much.